Hey everyone! So, the basic parts of the combat system are almost done, and I wanted to show you a little of how that would work in the full game. Keep in mind that what's shown on the screen is a very early version with placeholder graphics. Vampire Syndicate is a turn-based, party-based game that is very broadly similar to XCOM or Baldur's Gate. You'll notice all the standard RPG combat elements, like the turn order up top, the combat log, and the unit info window along with the action buttons. The game runs on a system designed from scratch by me, so be prepared for some experimentation. The basic goal of most battles is to kill or defeat all your enemies by reducing their HP to 0. I know, groundbreaking stuff. Combat starts off in an isometric viewpoint, and you have full camera control. We can see that the battles will be in a grid format with various types of terrain. There will be a mix of larger outside battle maps, and small enclosed interiors as well. The two types of cover I have planned for now are half cover and full cover, both of which will provide some kind of protection from enemy ranged fire. My philosophy behind the combat system is to reward good tactical gameplay along with proper character building. There are a lot of stats and attributes in the game, although it should be relatively simple to learn. Almost all the stats and attributes can be improved over the course of the game. This is a setting with a plethora of enhancements available, both of the high-tech and magical variety. As the game progresses, the player has the options to become superhuman. You can embrace the supernatural powers of a vampire, or shed the weakness of the flesh with a mechanical shell. The game has genre stables like HP, action points, move range, and others, so I'll only point out mechanics that are unique to my game, or otherwise rare enough that it needs to be explained. There are 5 base attributes that scale damage and have other functions, which is similar to the standard array of strength, charisma, dexterity, and so on that you see in other RPGs. I'll describe those in maybe a later video, but be aware those exist. Your speed stat will determine how many tiles you can move in a single turn. Currently I've also tied initiative to the same stat, although this may change later on. Initiative determines the order in which you take your turn. I currently do have an ambush mechanic. If enemy units have higher initiative than your characters, they will move even before your deployment phase. You will still get a deployment phase though. Reserve points are more or less what mana would represent in other games. It's a scarce resource that allows characters to use more powerful skills, and probably most important to someone like a magic caster. Accuracy is broken up into ranged and melee accuracy. Melee accuracy is pretty self-explanatory, and it's not affected by cover. Ranged accuracy is, and will also have a ranged drop-off based on the number of tiles. Coupled with accuracy are individual evade stats for both melee and ranged. These take into account the unit's natural evasive abilities, but also things like armor and other defensive elements. Be aware that very strong enemies like elder vampires and cyborgs will be very evasive, and need to be locked down with skills to make them easier to hit. You have the basic move function, which by the way is in the form of a pool, and can be used before, between, and after actions as you like. Every unit will have its own list of actions they can take into combat. Every action costs action points, although this will vary, and there are some very powerful actions that don't cost any at all. Additionally, AP in Vampire Syndicate differs a fair amount from other games in how high you can increase them. Endgame characters will be able to do a ridiculous amount of things per round. Gear designates actions that are conferred by weapons and equipment. Skills are usually actions from the unit's skill tree. Spells are unique to magic casters, and non-magic casters will not have access to most spells, although there are some exceptions. And finally, the special category is a catch-all for everything else. Combat starts with a deployment phase where you can position your party as desired. You may notice there is a large unit in this demo, which is something I'm really excited about, but they are difficult to implement. So, while the basics of the combat system are finished, I can't really stress enough how much work goes into something like this. Other games with entire teams of developers spend years tweaking and fixing their combat systems. One of the most time-consuming parts of game development will be adding and tweaking assets, including graphics, combat animations, and UI. It takes a lot of work to make the game look good, but I think there's a strong basis here already. Thanks for watching. Hopefully I'll have more later on.